Ever heard of a ghost in the machine? I mean, a real one, a program that's not supposed to exist, running in a place it physically can't be. Well, we're about to break down a digital heist so wild it completely rewrites the rules of the game. And it all starts with this one simple, impossible idea. Okay, so picture this. You've got a piece of code. It's built from the ground up for a Linux system. It speaks Linux, it thinks Linux, it's a Linux program. Now, what if I told you that very same program was found executing on a Windows machine? I mean, that just shouldn't happen, right? It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It fundamentally breaks the rules. But here's the kicker, the truly mind-bending part. While this impossible thing is happening, every alarm, every security system, every single digital watchdog on that network is just silent. Nothing. So how is this even possible? You're probably asking that right now. To really get it, to understand how the Qilin ransomware group pulled off this incredible digital magic trick, we gotta go all the way back to the beginning. And believe me, it didn't start with some huge explosion. It started with a whisper. See, here's the thing about these super sophisticated attacks. They almost never start the way you think. They all begin with one tiny crack, a single point of entry. And for this heist, the front door wasn't blasted open. Oh no, it was quietly unlocked by someone who already had the key. The lure was just brilliant. A fake capture page, the click here to prove you're not a robot thing. It looked exactly like Google's, so while some unsuspecting employees clicking on pictures of traffic lights, a bit of hidden code is running silently in the background, just snatching up their login details. And once the attackers had those real credentials, they didn't have to worry about multi-factor authentication. They just walked right in. No fuss. Okay, so getting in is one thing, but what they did next, that's where it gets really clever. They had to stay hidden. Now you might think they'd unleash some crazy, obvious malware, right? Nope. Their entire goal was to become invisible. To blend in so perfectly, they just looked like they belonged there. Just another IT guy doing his job. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. Look at this. They didn't use sketchy hacker tools. They used the exact same legitimate IT software the company's own tech support uses every single day. I'm talking AnyDesk, Screen Connect, the whole suite. So to any security software watching the network, their activity looked completely normal. It was indistinguishable from everyday routine maintenance. Genius, right? And to make sure they could come and go as they pleased, they created their own admin account. And get this, look at the name, Support, with 2 T's. So simple, so subtle, just enough of a typo to fly right under the radar. But that little account gave them the keys to the entire kingdom. Total persistent control. At this point, they weren't just visitors, they owned the place. All right, so now they have the keys to the kingdom. The attackers are getting ready for their final move, the end game. But before they drop the hammer, they make 2 absolutely masterful plays to make sure their victim is completely helpless. They wanted to guarantee they couldn't fight back, and more importantly, that they couldn't recover. First up, they went right for the one thing that could save the company, its safety net, the backups. This wasn't just random smashing either, it was a surgical strike. They knew that if they took out the backups, there would be no easy way to recover. And that, right there, is how you crank up the pressure to pay the ransom. But here's the thing, they didn't just delete the backups. No, they were way smarter than that. They actually dug into the backup databases themselves. They pulled out all the juicy info stored inside. Usernames, passwords, credentials for the most critical servers on the network. They basically turned the company's own life raft into their personal roadmap to the crown jewels. Okay, so the safety net is gone. Next move, blind the guards. And to do this, they used this really cool and really scary technique called bring your own vulnerable driver. Think of it like this. A burglar gets their hands on a legitimate but flawed blueprint for the building's alarm system. It lets them walk right up to the main panel and just turn everything off from the inside. Nobody hears a thing. And they didn't just use one, they had a whole arsenal of these things. Some of these drivers were actually repurposed from the most random places, like anti-cheat software for video games. Can you believe that? These little bits of code gave them access to the absolute core of the operating system. We're talking kernel level. And from there, they could just turn off any security software that might have spotted them. Poof! The digital guards, completely blind. So let's just recap for a second. The backups? Gone.
The security systems? Blind. The stage is now perfectly set for their final, absolutely unprecedented move. The one that, breaks all the rules.
Okay, watch this. Step 1. They use a totally normal file transfer tool to copy their Linux ransomware onto the Windows computers. Step 2, they use another legit IT tool, Splashtop, to send a command, and that command tells the Windows machine to run the Linux program. And this is the magic trick. Because the command came from a trusted piece of software and the file itself wasn't a Windows virus, what was left of the security systems just shrugged. It saw nothing wrong. And just like that, a single Linux program started locking up everything. Windows machines, Linux servers, the whole network, encrypted by a digital ghost.
And you have to understand, this wasn't some one-time thing. The Qilin group was smart. They packaged this entire attack method into a neat little product, a ransomware as a service operation, and they unleashed it on the world with a massive global impact.
Just look at these numbers. Since January of this year alone, we're talking over 700 victims in 62 different countries. I mean, the speed and the scale of this operation is just staggering. It's a terrifying showcase of just how powerful this new kind of cross-platform attack really is. And they were surgical about who they hit. They didn't just spray and pray. They targeted specific industries: manufacturing, tech, financial services. Why? Because these are the sectors where any downtime is absolutely catastrophic. Every single second the systems are down, they are bleeding money. And that puts an insane amount of pressure on them to just pay the ransom. You know, the folks over at Trend Micro really hit the nail on the head. They said, this attack basically challenges everything we thought we knew about security. For decades, we've built our defenses like castles, with walls designed to protect one specific thing, like Windows. What the Qilin group proved is that in today's interconnected world, those old walls just don't matter anymore. Which brings us to the big looming question, doesn't it? This whole attack, it wasn't really about encrypting files. It was about finding and exploiting the gaps between our systems. So as our world gets more and more connected, the real challenge is this. If the bad guys can literally rewrite the rules of how an operating system is supposed to work, then what on earth are the new rules for defending ourselves?